Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 10, Episode 6 of The Blacklist. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I didn't recognize the name when I saw the episode title last week or whatever. I also didn't recognize it was a part 2. Is this the biggest gap we've had between a part 1 and a part 2 of a Blacklist? Because usually they're back-to-back episodes. Like the conclusions. I'm trying to think. There's probably been big gaps before, but like that was season 8. Or no, that was that season 8 or was no. It had to be season 7 because when Perillos found out about Dembe being an FBI agent. So it had to be like season because wasn't that because that was a Townsend situation because she was torturing Dembe for Townsend. So yeah, that was a season 7. So I was like, is that the biggest gap between one? Maybe I'm just not remembering. But like I said, they're typically like back-to-back episodes more often than not. So that's why the rarity between like such a big gap, if there's been any. Either way, it is this interesting juxtaposition that Perillos being who she is and the torturer that she is, but I had forgotten that her motivation was like in a twisted way she wanted to end all pain because she felt like a systemic system led to her mom not getting the treatment she needed and she was constantly in pain, and that's also what fuels her fire for going after Dembe because Dembe and Reddington were the only people to ever escape her torture and her interrogations. And so it's from a professional standpoint, but it's also on a personal standpoint because her mom died like a year and a half after she was in jail, or maybe like a year and a half ago while she was in jail because of Dembe and Reddington. So it's like, right, when I look into your eyes, all I can think about is the pain my mom was in and I wasn't there. It's like, to be fair, you ain't like you were some good person that got locked up. You are, a torturer, you're a terrible person. So it's not like, no one's the villain of their own story, especially in her case, because she thinks of herself as a hero. But like, it's also just not just the juxtaposition in that, but like you see what she's actually doing in the prison. It's like, oh, I'm trying to help out this woman, and it's like she's talking to like the warden of the prison, being like, hey, like if you would basically help treat these women ahead of time, their situations wouldn't digress into what they are, because she is fighting against a system that would kind of leave people in pain rather than giving them the treatment they need early on that can mitigate and completely remove any byproduct of a situation continuing and manifesting into something terrible later on. It's that thing of like, right, there is good in what she wants to do. She just goes about it in a terrible way. It's just her mind. Like in her mind, it's like, right, like I can be the one that finds a way to end pain. So the moment she found an opportunity, well, I found the opportunity. Wu Jing found her and ended up bringing her in because he wanted to torture Dembe, because Dembe is the only other person alive who knows all of Reddington's secrets. I mean, because Dembe's been on both sides of the thing of like, he's worked with Reddington for years. He's always been his closest confidant. And even though like, I'm not in, he knows nothing about Reddington's current, like he knows the foundation of like the networks and how things ran for a long time, but he's been out of the loop on how things have run for a while now. I mean, for like, ever since he became an FBI agent and kind of left Reddington behind. To be fair, Red was going in that 2-year period, but still, But Dembe's the closest you'll be able to get. It does sound like, and this still could be something they aim for later on, at the very least, they're not aware of everyone that's a part of the task force, but they are aware of Harold's existence, so they will probably come after him eventually. I thought they were going to get him with Perillos, but it's like, no, we got Dembe for now, but eventually they'll probably come after Harold to use him because Wu Jing is doing everything he can to get, because once again, he knows what he learned from Marvin, but Marvin's not alive to corroborate anything that he said, and probably anything that Marvin might have been able to use to prove that, Reddington's probably long since destroyed. So Wu Jing has to take the foundation of what Marvin gave him and try and go out and gather proof, because the moment he gets proof, he can show it to every criminal in the world, and those who are on good terms with Reddington will immediately turn on the types of situation. That's the whole point. But it sucks because Dembe was so close to kind of getting away from, like, because it's like, right, he knew what was up. Poor what's his name, Soren. It's like his daughter was kidnapped, and it's like they probably will just let his daughter go. But you also don't know, like Wu Jing and them could have just easily killed her after the fact, because it's like, yeah, your dad's dead, and we no longer need him. Because I thought it was interesting that. Because even Dembe, once again, bringing up the point I brought up earlier, he doesn't know the ins and outs of Reddington's current situation, but he's like, no, like, I've been slipping up, messing up lately. If Reddington finds out, that's going to be an issue. But it's like, I was like, he's pushing too hard. It feels like this is kind of a setup. And then later on, when he was getting antsy, he's like, oh, no, yeah. And then, like, when he was typing on his phone, I'm like, that was him sending a message to somebody, wasn't it? It wasn't him looking this stuff up. And it's like, no, stay. Is that really? It's like, oh, one more thing. And you're like, yeah, this is a setup. And trying to get Dembe back to Perillos. And the only reason why he turned himself over is because that mother and her son were caught up in this. And Dembe threatened to unalive himself if they were hurt. Because it's like, right, you need me alive. Wu Jing needs me alive. So captured him, and Perillos is back to her thing. Trying to get all the information, especially now that they know Dembe's an FBI agent, and her kind of poking and prodding about, like, right, just give Reddington up, like all the pain he causes in the world. And I'm sure in Dembe's mind too, it's like, yes, Reddington causes some pain, but it's also your loyalty to him because of, despite everything, it's like what Reddington has done for you, taking you in, been there for you. Yes, there's a lot of pain that's come in Dembe's life because of it, but it's also been, it's that complicated thing of, like, a lot of good came out of that life too, you know? It's like, if it wasn't for Reddington, you wouldn't have ever had Liz in your life, or Harold, or Wrestler, or Aram, or Samar, and now Sia's in your life because of her mom. So it's like, there's a lot of good that comes with it, but also a lot of bad. There's so much in that. So I'm sure Dembe has all kinds of complicated feelings about it, because he is a religious person, and, you know, and that's been an issue he's had to face before, where he has to basically choose his loyalty to Reddington over his own faith and beliefs. And also, like, and even Perillos being like, oh, you became an FBI agent because you're trying to redeem yourself. Reddington is beyond redemption, but I think for Reddington, it's like, I've never cared for something as pedestrian as redemption, considering it's like, everything I've done was for my legacy, for my daughter. So I don't care about something like that, you know, and especially now that Reddington doesn't have Liz anymore, you know, I guess the task force that she was a part of, that you kind of help found to some extent, like, keeping that alive for now. It's all about survival at this point in time, with Wu Jing, like, amassing an army for this war. So what the end result looks like for the task force for all of this is, it's going to be very interesting to see. But either way, Perillos sadly never got to, luckily, but sadly for her, never got to break Dembe, because the FBI found their way there because of Robert, which I saw that twist coming. I knew. I was like, the way he came to Wu Jing, I was like, yeah, that's why Reddington went out of his way to get Robert, because it's like, right, I need you on my side. I need the best of the best. It isn't just like, oh, I'm amassing, trying to get to people before Wu Jing did. It's like very specific people, but it's also because he needed a double agent. He needed an insider. So that's what, where Robert came into play. So, and it also seemed like, hey, Robert is the one who, and from the FBI's perspective, it looks like Robert is the one who is working with Wu Jing, and it's like, oh, do you know about that? And Reddington's like, yeah, I'll deal with Robert in time. It's like keeping the cards close to his vest. But I love with the reveal of, like, because I'd actually completely forgotten we started the episode, had this as a big part, as part of the episode, and we cut away. It was him bringing Robert in Hood. It's like, wait, they put me in the trunk and everything. That's more than what you deserve. You have anything to say for yourself? He's like, I'm in. He's like, really? All right, really? Yeah. It's like, yeah. And they're celebrating. It's like, how about a drink? I'll stay for one glass. No, make it two. It was like, it's a really good thing. And I love Reddington's explanation for, like, why Robert was okay with it. Like, Robert confronted me about Wu Jing's allegations, and I told Robert the truth. And I'm like, did you tell him, like, the truth? Like, just like the truth about your agreement deal and stuff? For Robert to be okay with it, it has to be beyond that. It has to be the Katarina stuff as well. So it's probably like everything. Katarina, Liz being Katarina's daughter and everything, but it's like Robert was ecstatic by the news, because he's like, oh my god, you've pulled off the greatest con of criminal history. And it's like, of course I'm going to help you. Oh my God, like, sadly, no one will ever know because we got to keep this tight lit. You're talking about a con that's been decades, 30 plus years of making, you know, and it's especially when you think about what Katerina was before too, like, of her status as as a Russian spy and her role there. So it's like this whole spycraft element's always kind of been a part of her. So, just ended up carrying over that into a new role. But Robert being like, yeah, I'm all about that. But even Reddington being like, you don't have to do this if you're not out for it. He's like, do not ever try and give me another parachute. Because I think for him, it's like as a criminal and as an artiste, it's like, I never back down from a job. I see things through all the way through. And the sad thing is the only reason why Robert got caught is because he used his phone to call, because that's why he was like, oh, I need like an hour. He was hoping to finish. He was hoping to give Reddington enough time to find out about Dembe, but like he had to leave the phone behind so they could trace it, and they found the phone. And for Robert, it's like, well, you caught me, because even Wu Jing is like, because Wu Jing had talked about it earlier in the episode, being like, oh, how good of an, con artist you are. And I thought that's like, is that kind of Wu Jing kind of implying like he knows? But it's like, no, he was just in awe of his skills. And it's like, right, those same skills were being used against you. You just didn't realize it. But it's like, yeah, if you did not sacrifice yourself to save Dembe Zuma, you could have stayed undercover the entire time and I would have never known. But for Robert, it's like, yeah, you can do whatever you want to me, but it's like, Perillos won't get any information out of me because Reddington didn't tell me anything. Reddington told you everything. Also, Dembe's the only agent I know about, which is true, most likely. And I don't know anything about the operation or even the location because he has never been to where the task force is. So it is heartbreaking that Robert died. But for him, it's like, if going out, doing what I've done, pulling off like one more master performance. It didn't work out, but at the end of the day, he was able to save Dembe, and that's all that mattered. And even Harold himself said it in this episode, like, Robert next to Dembe is like the only other real friend Reddington has in the world. So when Red finds it, it's like, right, I asked you to do this, and you're dead now because of it, and told the others, like, hey, free him from those zip ties and bring the body, because it's like, we're going to give him a proper burial. And I love Robert being like, no, go ahead, do whatever you want to, but you're not going to win this, Wuji. I can't, too bad, Reddington, I won't be, I wish I could see Reddington. He's going to win, and he's going to put a bullet in your head. It's like, how can you be so sure? Because it's Raymond Reddington, Red's been at this for a while, for 30 plus years. And you think just because you've got what you've got is going to matter. Red's going to come out on top, and how once again, how we get there, how this all plays out, we'll have to wait and see. But that's the problem with like the casualties of this war and this business, that Red's lost a lot of people. Also, the fact that Chuck and them are with him, I'm like, when did you remedy that? Because in the first episode, the whole point was like, oh, like, Chuck, did you know? It's like, oh, I didn't know Red was back. I guess Red, like, because we haven't seen Red run deep with any security, like, with Chuck and them. And this is like the first episode we've seen Red with Chuck, and I'm like, oh, interesting. So you got, I guess, after kind of getting stuff planned out, you did kind of eventually reach out. But it seemed like, because Red also doesn't have like a Weecha or like a Dembe by his side. So that's also another thing. It's like, yeah, Chuck and them, but like Chuck and them are only called in on occasions. They're not always there. I guess it was, you needed someone there to kind of help pick up Robert, to kind of have some disconnect between Robert and Reddington, I guess, in that regard. But things were pretty touch and go for Dembe when it came to the Perillos situation, because by the time Wrestler and Sia got there, he was in cardiac arrest. But luckily, got him to one of Reddington's doctor teams, and he's lucky to be alive. But the whole situation shook Sia, because it's like, she's going through some of the Blacklister files, but it's like, right, the fact is that there are vile humans like this that exist, but Wrestlers, like, that's what the Blacklist is about. These are people no one would have never been able to hear about if it wasn't for Reddington. These are like some vile, disgusting, like, criminals out there that you've never even heard like whispers about. These are like untouchable villains if it wasn't for Reddington. So that's what makes this all the more. And it's like it's a hard job, because it will change you. Because even Wrestlers like, no, I'm not saying like, I forgot what he was basically saying. Like, I'm talking about this job changes you, what kind of effect it has on you, because he's like, this job has changed me. It's not just, he was like, it's not just about the people you lose that's hard. It's also the people that are still here, because everyone that's been a part of this job has been changed in some shape or form. And wrestlers like, I've been changed, whether that's for better or worse, I don't know. But that's the real gravity of what you've gotten mixed up into. You want to carry on your mom's torch of what this job was, a job of secrets and stuff like that. But like, the wrestler tried to warn her, like, you don't understand the full gravity, because you're coming into this new and fresh. I've been doing this for years. I've been part of the OG team, and because obviously Dembe's kind of been a part of this for a while, but he's never been on the law enforcement side, I think. But I mean, the situation has changed him. It has definitely changed Harold. Those who are no longer with the team, Samara's changed, Aram has changed, Park has changed, so. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what the aftermath of this looks like. They talked about finishing off Dr. Perillos. I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, you kind of want her to get her comeuppance on screen. In fact, you'd want Reddington to be the one to do it, but this is the conclusion episode. So yeah, Wu Jing is just like, well, we don't need her anymore. She didn't get anything out of Dembe. We didn't get anything out of Robert. So yeah, just, last thing we need is Reddington getting his hands on her, getting any information out of her, because who knows what she heard and what she could, so it's like, nah, like, remove her from the board. So she gets her comeuppance, but it's not like on screen, it's off screen. So once again, it's the conclusion episode. So this is the last we'll see of Dr. Perillos. Maybe it's a thing like her body will show up in like the next episode or something. So it's like, they know she's been removed from the board, but Reddington's probably going to go on a warpath because of this whole Robert thing, or it might just be a thing of, hey, I'm going to be comical and collected, but be seething underneath, because it's like, Wu Jing, you did what you did, but once again, this is just sadly the casualties of war. And once again, it's going to be heavy on Reddington, because he's the one that kind of suggested. I mean, it might have been Robert's idea, but it's still the thing of, I got you involved in this, and I tried to give you a parachute, but I know who you are. You told me like not to, and that you're going to see this through, essentially. So. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.